Hello and welcome to the Inside Social Work podcast, a podcast that aims to inspire, engage and connect social workers with other social workers and allied health professionals doing interesting and amazing things across the world. I'm your host, Marie Vakakis. Thank you for listening and I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the Inside Social Work podcast. I can't believe it's been 59 episodes. That is incredible. I could not have imagined in 2019 when I just started my little podcast with a really crappy microphone using my phone and the voice memo app that it would become what it is today. So really excited that things have been progressing this way, and to all the beautiful listeners out there, thank you so much for following the podcast. It's been really great. In today's episode, I chat with Silvina, and Silvina is a speech pathologist. So she's not a social worker, but we love her anyway. And she has she's the founder and director of Purple Carrots, which is a speech and drama studio. And check out their Instagram page because it is super cute. There are some beautiful videos of the participants absolutely having a ball in her workshops. It's really sweet to watch. Silvina is a Melbourneite, so Melbourne native, and moved to Toronto in Canada and started Purple Carrots there, and then came back and decided to bring it here as well. So she found a way to combine arts, her expressive arts and drama, child-centered play and speech therapy. So a really beautiful combination and a really good example of how you can use different life experiences and kind of put them together into an allied health role. So this is a really beautiful program. I've seen some of the kids coming out of these workshops with Silvina with just absolute smiles on their faces, and sometimes there is glitter and paint in weird spots and places around the place because we did share a space for a little while and it was great, totally fine. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Silvina. Hello and welcome to the Inside Social Work podcast. Today I'm interviewing Silvina D'Alessandro, a speech therapist here in Melbourne, which is super exciting. Welcome, Silvina.
Hi, thank you.
We were just having a chuckle about our dogs, hopefully not barking. So let's see if we can get through this. Did you want to chat a bit about your background? So speech therapy is quite broad and a lot of our listeners might not know all the different things it entails. So I'd love to hear from you. What's your speech therapy journey been like, and kind of what is it that you do at the moment?
Sure. So I've had quite a colourful career, I would say. Definitely not a linear one. I graduated from speech in 2006, and then after working as a speech therapist at a special developmental school for a year, so I've always worked with children. So in speech therapy, you can specialize in children or adults, and there are many different fields. So you can do fluency focus, language, speech, pragmatics. And so in my first job, it was a little bit of everything because I was the sole speech therapist at the school. And I worked there for a little while and then actually went on to study acting at the National Institute of Dramatic Art in Sydney. So I moved to Sydney, did that for the 3-year degree and stayed in Sydney for about 7 years, being an actress and working as a speech therapist and a kids entertainer and a drama teacher. And then I thought this is the time to try something completely different. And I moved to Toronto for what ended up being almost 7 years. And when I was in Toronto, I studied expressive art therapy, which is another 3-year degree. And then the winds changed and I moved back to Melbourne in 2020 and studied play therapy, child-centered play therapy specifically. So Yeah, so what I do now is work as a speech therapist, a child-centered play therapist, and I run an inclusive drama program called Purple Carrots Drama Studio, and yeah, that studio is a combination of all the things that I've learned along the way, and really it's a representation of my passion, which is really helping children and adults improve their social communication through the arts with a primary focus on drama.
That's amazing. So interesting. I didn't know that you studied theatre like in the
Yeah.
middle. I thought it must have been one came first, but it was a sort of, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It jumps around it. They all have the question, I think, of what it is to be human threaded through. That's how I like it. And communication. I think communication and what it is to be human is threaded through all of those different career paths.
What are some of the things how can drama facilitate communication and growth, and how does that sort of align with speech therapy? I mean, and allied health in general, I think what's been really useful for me as well is to see that there's a lot of overlap in what we do. And because as a system and an environment, if you're working with families or children, we all overlap. We end up working so closely with other allied health professionals. What would lead someone to doing a program like that or participating? Like, what sorts of things does it support?
Yeah, so when I started working as a speech therapist, we're trained to help children improve their pragmatics in the speech room, which is an adult being me and the child in the room, just the two of us, and you sort of talk about social skills, and that dynamic I found was really limiting. So even though a child might understand a certain, let's say, social norm, for example, ask to borrow a marker if you want it rather than snatching a marker off someone else's hand, they might understand the concept of that. Or turn taking, like wait to say your turn, wait till the person's finished, or eye contact, all of these social communication norms, they might understand it intellectually, but once you put them in a room with another child, generalizing that knowledge is really, really challenging, because the stimulus that a child receives from another child is just so different from the stimulus a child receives from an adult, or in this example, a speech therapist. So I find that working in the context of children with children, and dealing organically with what comes up socially is just so much more effective than working one-on-one. And I guess you could do a combination of the two of them if the parents wanted to, but I really love also the indirect nature of working on social skills through drama. So we don't do it like, okay, this week we're working on listening, next week we're working on turn taking, week after we're working on eye contact. It's not really like that. We're working on a play, so we put on a play on the last day for family and friends, and drama itself innately invites the participants to create together, which requires social communication, effective social communication. So that in and of itself is just so powerful. And so that's sort of what I really love about it.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think it's fun. Learning's fun when it's presented that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and interacting socially for the most part, needs to be fun and motivating for the children to feel more confident in doing it and want to come back and want to make and keep friends. It can't really be dry and boring. Otherwise, they'll think, oh no, socializing is a negative experience. So we really want them to have a positive experience with other children.
Yeah. There was a word you used before that I'm not familiar with, around the type of, you said something around when speech therapists work with children, something around a type of language. Was it tempered language? Or
Pragmatic language?
Pragmatic language. Yeah. What does that mean? Is that just sort of like a diagnostic? Like, what's that?
Sorry, yeah. So it's just essentially non-verbal language, so social communication that isn't verbal.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be all of those social skills. So for example, many autistic individuals struggle with pragmatic skills. So that might just be when it's your turn to stop talking, when you might, topic maintenance, turn taking, body language, all those sorts of things that are almost secret rules in interaction, in social interaction, that can be really challenging for some autistic individuals. And so, yeah, drama again is just so directly beneficial in that way, because if you're doing a scene with somebody and their body is facing away from you, the story that's telling is going to be really different to whether they are facing you. And so we might talk a little bit about that without necessarily any right or wrong, or just be curious. It allows for a platform for curiosity, because we might say, I wonder what the audience might be thinking about what this person is thinking or feeling if their body's facing away from their communication partner, and problem solving together as a group when it's come up in play, rather than saying, today we're going to work on body language, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And how does that fit in with? So you said it's an inclusive drama group. So you're inviting children of all different ages. What are some of the ways in which you're also, because I know that there's a lot of maybe not debate, but it can be quite, when things are very explicitly social skills, people can find that a bit ick, because we want to be accepting of neurodiversity. So how does that, how does drama change that conversation?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Well, essentially, it's an inclusive drama program, which to me means that if you need more support in order to benefit from or enjoy a drama class, we can provide that. And the structure of it itself, so there's a 6-student maximum, there's 2 teachers, we have visual support like a visual schedule and a visual timer. And if somebody needs a one-on-one to participate and to be able to achieve their goals, then we can facilitate that. Or if the parents have someone who they already like working with, they're welcome to come and support the child. So I guess the question is, like, what are their support needs? Maybe they have very low support needs, and, all of those things aren't really necessary, and, they'll can enjoy and benefit from the class. But maybe they do need those extra levels of support, and those things are available should they need it. So to me, that's what inclusivity in the drama class means.
Yeah, wonderful. It's so interesting. And I've seen some of the children skip out of those happy drama clubs.
Yeah. No, I love what you said before about it needing to be enjoyable, because that's such a big part of it. Yeah. They do. We get a lot of positive feedback, and children saying, why can't I come every day? Why is it only once a week? we try really hard to make it a positive space where we focus on strengths and not so much challenges, just support around the challenges, but really focus on the strengths.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit around how did you find the internal, whether it's the confidence or to develop it. So you recognize either there was a gap in the market, or there was something that wasn't offered that you needed, and finding a way to combine all the different things that you've picked up along the way and that you love and enjoy into this idea that then became something you've run across 2 countries and had to start up from scratch, twice. Like, how did you kind of do all that? Because we don't get taught business and marketing, and we're not by nature as allied health pushed in that direction or exposed to it very often. So what was that journey like?
I never thought I would be running my own business ever. No, that's been a huge learning curve. And I just did it because no one else was doing it, and I thought it should exist. Like, this has to exist. How are there not drama classes that focus on helping to improve children's social communication? Like, that is just such a clear match made in heaven for me. And it was just, there was no real question around it when it became clear that it needed to exist. I thought, well, now I just have to learn skills to make that possible. And learning through mistakes is a really big one. I had a business coach when I first came up with the idea, because you didn't know where to start. So I was, sharing the idea was really important, telling people what I was thinking, because then someone says, oh, well, I know a business coach who, might help you get this off the ground. And so I worked with her to plan out what it might look like and really solidify my goals and set deadlines for myself and say, by this date I want to have achieved this, by that date I want to achieve that. And the motivation to achieve those goals really came from my belief in the program and how it could really, really help people. And that is what made it possible for me to do it again when I moved back to Melbourne, because I don't know if I've said this in the podcast, but I was running it for 6 years in Toronto before moving back here, which I've now been running it for 2 years. And it is hard to get the momentum. Both times it was hard to get the momentum, but the actual participants and their experience is what motivates me. So I think finding what really motivates you to do it and helps you push through all the questions that come up and all the doubts that come up for yourself, just holding on to that. Like, I think last time we had coffee, I mentioned to you, Marie, that when I was in Toronto, one of my adult students said to me, oh, what are you going to do when you go back to Australia? And I said, oh, I'm not sure. I'm thinking about starting this again in Australia, but it's a big job, and I'm not sure if people will like it there as much as they like it here. And she looked at me and says, well, but they're humans, so if they're humans, they're going to love it. And she is someone who's been doing the program for about 4 years, and just her saying that really helped me overcome some fears that came up along the way. If they're humans, they'll like it. I'm like, okay. So it's the people who you're doing it for that help you get there.
Yeah, and it's really hard to stretch yourself out of your comfort zone that way. And you said 2 years, so that puts you smack bang in the middle of all our lockdowns as well, trying to get this up and running again.
Yeah.
That was fun, wasn't it?
So much fun. Yes, definitely learned how to be flexible and you go with the flow throughout that time, as most people found was necessary. So I'm glad that we're back to some kind of consistency now.
That's I think we all are. For those listening, we have a lot of, I mean, we're mostly social workers, but of other allied health, other allied health practitioners sometimes listen as well. What are some things that, if you're working with children, if you're working in schools, without having to cross over into a whole speech therapy qualification, what are some ways that those working with children in particular can use this example that you've sort of talked about of finding a way to teach pragmatic language, but it comes up subtly through like the creating of the final production? What are tips or tricks or ideas that you have for those who work with that age group of just extra ways they can be creative to engage children?
So incorporating some reflective responding is a really good way to help children become more aware of their own feelings and the feelings of others.
Can you give me an example of what that would be? Like, what's reflexive responding?
Sure. So if we go back to the snatching the marker example that I gave before, as that might cause a conflict between two children. So instead of jumping straight to the rule and saying, don't snatch, and maybe then going straight to a punishment, for example, responding with empathy to that child and saying, you want the marker. It's hard to wait for your turn to get the marker, and seeing what their reaction is to that response. So we do this constantly throughout a whole drama class, reflectively responding to feelings and thoughts. Probably one of the main ways that we teach increased emotional awareness throughout the class. And just wait and see what that is. And sometimes just being seen with empathy by an adult is enough to stop the behavior and give that person some insight into maybe getting a little bit closer to naming a feeling, and then being able to make choices around their behavior to have more awareness of their feelings. So it's a simple, so hard to wait your turn, you really want the marker. And then if you feel that you need to set a limit, saying something like, and we don't snatch markers, and then you can offer an alternative after that. So what I'm talking about is a little bit more coming from the child-centered play therapy area of my education and my training, which is incorporated into the class. But I think this is a really nice one in terms of teaching self-awareness and social skills in a classroom environment.
So you were saying about that reflexive listening and how you can reframe that interaction. I think it's very similar to emotion coaching, which is what I teach parents. There was something in what you said that really got me, grabbed my attention around not to punish first. And I think that's really interesting because we teach swimming, we teach someone how to ride a bike, we teach someone how to read and write and do maths, and then we punish for behaviors. And I think it's really interesting around how you're talking about it with an understanding that we don't inherently know this stuff. And how by reframing it the way you said, or emotion coaching is almost identical. It's noticing the feeling and then talking about the behavior, and then you set boundaries or problem solve.
Yeah, and I love when possible giving the child the opportunity to problem solve themselves. And almost one of the things I ask a lot is, what do you need right now to achieve the goal, like to stay in the group or to whatever the goal is in that moment. And sometimes kids can answer that if they're regulated enough. They can answer that question and say, I need a break, or um, whatever it may be. And other times I need to give two clear options of those two things, of the alternative choices. But yeah, in regards to the rewards and punishment, we have a purple points board, and they get points based on essentially having big hearts, so making their hearts and other people's hearts feel big in the space. And that's the kind of language that we're using. And then I'll always have one child on the first session say, "Oh, and so then what do we get if we don't do that? Like, what's the punishment?" And so they're expecting, I guess, that there's a punishment. And I just say, "Oh, everybody makes mistakes. And if you feel like you've made a mistake, we can just talk about it and see how we can make a different choice next time. You don't get points taken off." And they're like, "Oh," and you just feel this big relief that, "Oh, we don't get points taken off. But it's not competitive. It's just, however many points you get in the class. Then at the end of the class, they get to decide what their purple party is to celebrate however many points they got in the class. So essentially, you know, uh, they do like a dance party or an art party or that kind of thing. And so, positive social communication will be rewarded by a positive social experience is the subliminal message there.
I love
Try to
that.
stay away from physical, like, material rewards, because I don't think they work. And the value of physical rewards lessens so quickly. So they might be excited about a lucky dip box after the first class, but certainly not after the fourth class. And that we really want to encourage that intrinsic motivation.
I love that purple heart, like purple, what was it?
Big
Purple
heart.
points for big
Yeah,
hearts.
purple points for big hearts. Yeah, and that's like how. And so we talk about how do you keep your own heart big in the space, and how do you help other people's hearts stay big, and and it's language we can go back to. So if somebody hurts somebody's feelings, and it can be part of the reflective responding, like, "Oh, noticing your heart's a bit small right now. Like, what can we do to help Samantha's heart feel bigger?" Or asking her, "What do you need for your heart to feel bigger right now?" And that's, I really like it, because you can also talk about what your body, is your body tight when you have a big heart, or is it nice and relaxed and open when you have a big heart, and thinking about that body awareness for
Mm.
ourselves
Yeah, it's
is
really
a
great.
clue.
Yeah, it's really teaching that emotional attunement and
Yeah.
expressing needs. So hopefully then going home and
Mm.
saying this, I'm feeling sad or my heart feels small and I'd love a hug or a cuddle or I just need to play in my room for a bit, like really helping individuals figure out what essentially is regulating or self-soothing.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, feedback I get often from parents is, "Oh, they've started talking about their feelings more at home since doing the drama class." And I think that's really motivating feedback for me, because that's the beginning of the ability to make a choice around behavior, and
Mm.
feeling empowered to, um, yeah, to be how you want to be. It's okay to be sad, but if you want to change that, then you need to be able to name it for yourself and put certain things in place to be able to get to where you want to be. So
Yeah, I think that's really valuable for parents. I work with parents of adolescents, and some of them have younger sort of tweens, and we sort of talk about this idea of you have to name it to tame it. There's no
mm,
bad feeling, but if you can't identify or you struggle to realize that what might seem like anger is loneliness or sadness, it can be hard to sit with it and manage it and
yeah,
then figure out
yeah,
what you need.
yeah,
What's either a solution or something to self-soothe or what's going to work in that moment, because feeling overwhelmed maybe requires a different solution to lonely or insecure. And
yeah,
if the children don't have that emotional literacy,
Yeah.
or they'll try to get their needs met or in ways that maybe aren't helpful or causing conflict.
Yeah, and I think part of it, something that comes to mind when you say that is the importance of the adult being able to sit with those uncomfortable feelings and not try to fix them straight away. So, that comes up in the class a lot as well. If there's some hard feelings going on for whatever reason, we would just say, oh, bit sad today, and sit with that. And you can almost see them expecting you to like try to fix it or come up with a solution. And when you don't, and you just sort of sit with it and empathize, often they will come up with their own solution to that problem. Yeah. And I think the one of the key factors is that they are motivated to join into the class, and so they want to find a way to overcome where they're at, because the content of the classes is motivating.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting observation, that if you're always getting told off in a setting, then when you're feeling not great, you don't want to, the intrinsic motivation is like, why would I go back to that environment? Like, there's no desire to go back because I'm getting told off. Yeah. And so unfortunately that way of, carrot and stick, punishment and reward, it actually doesn't teach the behavior. And it's just really interesting observation that you made of that they're having so much fun that they want to manage what's happening for them so they can get the most out of it and enjoy the drama or the painting or the purple party or whatever you're having.
Yeah. And their relationships become more and more important to them as the weeks go on.
Great.
So playing with their friends is going to be really motivating as well, which is great.
This is really interesting. And I mean, we could talk for hours, because I find this bit this is a really big overlap, I think, between sort of mental health and what you're doing, because you're essentially teaching that self-soothing, that regulation, getting needs met, setting boundaries. Like, so much of that is in that psychoeducation bit of mental health. We're working at different age groups, which I love that. You prevent potentially anxiety and depression by kids making contact with friends and knowing what they need and asking for it, and being able to identify those feelings.
Yeah, well, and we're actually about to start a collaboration with Jumpstart Community Services to start running adult neurodiverse drama classes. So that's exciting. They used to run those in Toronto, and they were so successful, and actually created a co-op theatre company branch of Purple Carrots called the Purple Stage, and put on their own professional productions of improvised theatre shows. So the adults can really take the reins and make it whatever they want it to be.
Amazing.
And all these same strategies, I guess, for want of a better word, that they can be applied to adults as well. And
And for people who are interested in learning a bit more about what you do, where can they find you?
So best place would be the website, which is purplecarrots.com.au.
Okay. Thank you so much. This has been so interesting. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. The Inside Social Work podcast would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we record this podcast today, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you for listening. If you would like to support the podcast, you could leave a rating or a review on iTunes or wherever it is you get your podcast, and feel free to join the Facebook group. It'd be great to hear from you. Have a lovely day. Bye.